And I'm excited to talk to her today. Hello, Empresario03 from West Texas. How y'all doing? Good to see you. Good to see you, Brent. I am Amy K. Ravindra is also here. Thank you for joining us today. We are talking to D'Arcy, and there she is.
Hey, can you hear me? Hi.
I can hear you. Hi, D'Arcy. How are you?
Okay, I'm trying my headphones on a different way. I'm good. I'm squirreled out in my
All
backyard
good.
because I've got a lot of construction going on. How are
Yeah, I
you?
know. I see on your Instagram posts you've got a lot going on all fronts, including the home renovation works, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. So
I'm
I just want
excited
to
to
do
be here.
I know. So I just want to do a quick little introduction. D'Arcy and I have known each other for maybe the last 6 months to a year. We got to know each other in 2020. D'Arcy is a success coach, a self-proclaimed brand brainiac and marketing ninja to ambitious entrepreneurs. But I know her, that's how I got to know her initially, as a brilliant writer. We actually we're linked through the Yale Writers Workshop. We didn't attend the same
Mm-hmm.
year, but we had the same instructor, Larry Bloom, and we were part of a writing group last year in 2020, and that's how I got to know D'Arcy. And I came to know her writing, which some of you have seen, and many of you will see more of. And I later came to learn that she has this other side to her, which is amazing and prolific and really supportive of women. And so, thank you, D'Arcy, for being with me today.
Oh, I'm so excited, and I'm so excited about all the things we're going to discuss and just talking about this new year and what it can unfold and what it means for business owners and women and everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot to be optimistic for. I mean, so many of us were like, good riddance, 2020. How was 2020 for you, if you were to describe it in 3 words?
Well, I think I only need one word to describe it, and I think that word would be unlearning.
Hmm.
And I feel that 2020 was unlearning a lot of things, from unlearning certain behaviors with white privilege to unlearning how I used to run business, and yeah, I just had to unlearn a lot of things, a lot of ideas. I took a lot of inventory. I think we all did. It
Yeah.
was a really interesting place to be. I'm always on the road, so it was a year of sitting on my couch, not all the time, but just like sitting, being present, watching, learning, seeing where I needed to unlearn, seeing where I needed to evolve, seeing where I needed to lend my voice. Yeah, that's all 2020 felt like.
I
I
mean,
don't
that's
know.
it.
How
I
was
mean,
it for
that's
you?
that sounds a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah. I mean, I think the same thing. I think I told my kids, I said, this has been a hard year, but there have been so many blessings that came out of all of these things, and it has unfolded all of the areas, the things that we were blind to. So when 2020 happened, it was like 2020 vision, and now I actually think that that actually came to materialize because we started
Yeah.
to see things we never saw before within
Yeah.
racial inequality, social income inequality, just so much injustice in the world. I think that it bring it to the surface because we're all quiet and we could hear finally for maybe the first time. So obviously
Yeah.
there's so much more work to do when it comes to that. But I'm with you. 2020 was very introspective in a lot of ways. And if you think about
Very.
2021, D'Arcy, what are you looking to manifest? What are you going to unfold this year?
Mm. 2021 is all about, for me, intuition. And, I think, especially in the entrepreneur world, we can always think that somebody else knows more than us. I am a constant learner, but sometimes within that learning, you can have this doubt that you're not doing it right, or this doubt that there must be a quicker way to success, or this doubt that there must be another path that you just don't know. So you're going to get into, a place where you sort of doubt yourself. And what I'm learning about the power of intuition, what I'm learning about listening to myself. So, like you said, 2020 built that foundation of unlearning, stillness, reflection, and going introspective. And 2021 is taking the new voices that are being developed, the new thoughts. I mean, you can no longer just kind of sit on the sidelines, at least not in my world. You can't. I know some people still are, but I think for those of us called to be speakers, activists, movers and shakers,
Yeah.
our intuition is key. And so really understanding how deep our intuition can go, it can go so much more than just like a little gut feeling. It can expose your whole world to what your true purpose and calling is when you learn to listen to that.
We have some amens coming from our audience right now, D'Arcy,
Yay.
and I'm one of them with you. Intuition has been a huge guide in my life, yet it's so hard to explain the concept, right? Intuition, is it a
Mm.
gut feeling? Is it a thought? Is it a dream that you have? Like, talk to me about your process for developing intuition, for knowing your intuition so that you can trust it to guide you in your life, in your business?
Well, I'll be a little like bold, I guess, in saying that many of the things that we find very comfortable in our day-to-day life kill our intuition. Our cell
Mhm.
phones, they're a big one. And so I have made a huge commitment to be off my cell phone for long periods of time. In fact, I shut it completely off, which I think gives most people a panic attack. I was doing a meditation on January 11th in this like socially distanced little space, and the instructor was like, "Hey, turn off your phone." And the lady 6 feet away from me didn't know how to turn off her phone because she hadn't done
Never
it.
done it.
And
That's
my mind
crazy.
was blown. And I'm like, she's never turned off her phone. She doesn't know how to do it. Because the new iPhone, you have to click two buttons instead of
Yeah.
just the one. So I
But
was
it's
just
such a metaphor for
internally,
life, right? It's
yes,
just, yeah, it really
we don't
is.
know how to do it. So
Yeah.
once you do that, then you have to sit with yourself.
Yeah.
And when you sit with yourself, um, it is a very internal process. And for me, what intuition is all about is looking at how I'm reacting to things. So I'm looking at what is triggering me. So if I get on social media and I'm being triggered that, oh, this person has more followers than me or more likes, or oh my gosh, they look like they're doing so much better than me, that's an intuitive hit that you get to work on your own self-love, because obviously comparison is a thing for you. And
Hmm.
comparison is a big thing. So what you're comparing yourself to, I think, is a big indication where you get to do some inner work. What triggers you? So if a certain person triggers you, um, and I think, especially in America today, we're all being triggered by, 50, we're just very divided, and 50% of people believe one thing and 50% of people believe another thing. And that's going to be huge to figure out how we can have some conversations that can be fruitful. And there's not a lot of examples of fruitful conversations between differences. And that's one thing that I'm really dedicated to in 2021. I'm a pretty good moderator. I like to feel like I can be Switzerland when I'm moderating ideas, even though I have very strong beliefs in my own self. So yeah, turning off your phone is the first step to intuition. That's all yeah, I mean, I can go
Okay.
on about
So
intuition for
that's huge
hours, but
for most of us. That's huge, right? I mean, I turn mine off in certain blocks, or I don't. I have developed the discipline. I don't run to my phone first thing in the morning.
mm-hmm.
I turn it off after a certain time, or at least I put it in night mode, and I don't get to it. So I have a little bit of discipline. But how does that? How do you balance that? Right, sort of the rest and the shutting off the world with being an entrepreneur, which, as we all know, is a 24/7 job, and so much of it is social, to get to the followers and to get access to potential clients. I mean, you have to be engaged, right? So how do you manage that seesaw, that balancing act that requires us to be out there, to work, to connect, yet, you know, that quiet period also needs to be cultivated at the same time.
Well, that's such a good question. And I used to believe everything you're saying. So I used to believe it was a 24/7 job. I used to believe that I always had to be on. I used to believe that I needed to be tapped in. And, they have this new app called Clubhouse now, and everybody's
Yeah.
just popping on at all times of day. And I see the notifications come in. I finally turn them off where from 5 a.m. in the morning to midnight, people are getting in and having conversation after conversation. And
By the way, that's the
I,
first baby step to take is turn off those notifications.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's the perfect one because
yeah,
otherwise your phone controls you and you're
absolutely.
distracted. And we're
Yeah,
all suffering from like, there's people who truly are diagnosed with ADD, and then there's people who feel like they have ADD because they're constantly being interrupted.
yeah.
And so at least 30-minute blocks without checking your phone is really, really healthy when you're trying to work. But I stopped believing that I had to be on 24/7. And I started taking control of what I believed how I wanted to work. So
Hmm.
I want to work Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and I don't want to work the other days. And so I'm really on and really present, and I deliver really powerful and compelling material during those days. And then the other days I'm not on. And I do have some pre-scheduled stuff that will occasionally go out. Um, but I am being just as fruitful as I was before. And I think that we each create our own reality. So if you have this belief that you have to work 24/7, then you're probably going to feel that that is necessary. But I really worked on, like I said, unlearning my past behaviors. And my past behaviors were overwork 24/7, give everything. And it was just making me sick. It was burning
Yeah,
out my thyroid. And what I have really brought it down to, that's the patriarchy. If I'm going to get really bold, that's this weird Western culture, male dominated society. I was looking at books because I was clearing out my bookshelves, and I was looking at these books written by men that were like die empty, maxed out. It
yeah,
was just like all these like rise and grind.
yeah,
And I just thought, that is not the feminine way of leadership. And by feminine, I don't just mean women. Like some of us have deeply feminine, softer spirits. If you guys haven't studied masculine or feminine energy is all about creation, and it's about beauty, and it's about the dance, and it's about allowing, and it's about flow. And for me to bring in flow, whether it's financially, whether it's beautiful downloads of things that I get to create for my clients, whether it's how I structure my day so that I'm not like, I'm laughing at how I used to do this like really strict morning routine, like get up at 5, meditate for an hour, exercise, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, I'll just be in my flow on certain days. There are certain days where I'm pretty disciplined, and then there are other days where I just allow the day to unfold. And that is a freedom that most of us don't give ourselves.
yeah,
And, there's a lot of other, responsibilities people have, like kids and everything. So I get that you can't always do it, but it's a state of mind too, this feminine flow that I have really tapped into as I've tapped into my intuition, that has made it so I don't need to rise and grind or get maxed out or die empty or not to disparage any of those books. They were probably written for people who really thrive on that. I
yeah.
used to think that was me. I used to identify myself as very, very ambitious. I'm still ambitious, but it looks very different.
All right.
Yeah.
So, what does your ambition look like? And let me ask you, D'Arcy. I mean, is your model evolving because you have obtained a certain amount of success, you've created a platform, and you have an established business? Is that something that you can be an upstart, right? Where you need that next job, you need any next job, you need there's a little bit more of the on ramping that's still happening. Is that something that can happen together?
Yeah. So, I coach beginners. I coach a lot of beginners who are just building the foundation of their business, and I'm coaching them on the feminine flow. I'm coaching them on the actually don't overwork. and I'm teaching them how to attract and bring in their money without the overwork, because the overwork is a lie. We think we're going to make more money if we work harder. This is one of the biggest things that Americans think. If I work harder, I will get more money. And it's
Mhm.
actually not true. It's actually not true. And this is a huge lesson that I'm learning. And so people who work with me, they get to learn this lesson too. And it will create a place of greater peace on the planet, because we can't just keep going at the way we're going. 2020 taught us that we're burning out the resources of Mother Earth. We're burning out ourselves. We're flying here and flying there and doing this meeting and posting this thing to
Yeah.
Instagram. And people who I think really come to a sense of who they are will feel so free in not always having to be on for others. And I think we care too much about what others are perceiving with our Instagram stories and
Yeah.
all of these things. And so when you kind of free yourself from that, which is a really huge, big first step, and it takes being uncomfortable, and it takes being willing to relearn a lot of how you do business. Um, but it's necessary. I think the world really is shifting as the patriarchy falls. The ways of patriarchy are falling. And one
Yeah.
of the ways of patriarchy is this overworking scenario that we're the only ones who have created this. I have many friends in other parts of the world where patriarchy isn't as strong, although it's still pretty strong in most places.
Everywhere. Yeah.
And they don't do the things that we do. I mean, I do think capitalism is a direct result of patriarchy, and and now we're bringing in these things like fair trade, and we're bringing in more knowledgeable people about the environment, and we're having the thing is we're so creative. We have all the solutions to the world's problems within us, but if we're just sitting there in the loop of the same problem, we're never going to find the new solutions, right? If we're just getting up, rising and grinding and
Right.
whatever, we're
Right.
not going to find the solutions to actually, bring back whole foods and natural farming and, yeah, I don't know if that's making any sense, if I'm connecting the dots enough, but
Absolutely. So when you are coaching these beginners, Darcy, let's kind of shift to 2021. There are so many moving pieces. There's so much uncertainty. There is optimism on the horizon, which is feels really good, but there's still uncertainty and many variables you can't control, particularly right now more so than ever. But there's always variables you can't control, and that's life. You can't
yeah,
control everything, anyways. But we really, I think, have to surrender into that
yeah.
more than ever right now. So as you're coaching and you are thinking about goals for 2021, how are you framing it? Like how are you working with your clients on their roadmaps for 2021 and beyond?
The most important thing, and this is what we start because I do a big group coaching and a mastermind. So I do a 6-month one and a year-long one. And the very most important thing that we start out with is understanding the laws of feminine power and tapping into those laws. And feminine power is something that we've really lost a, as the world. We've lost
Yeah.
it, and it's the only thing that's going to save it. And so, you know, when a person understands how not to give their power away and how to have it stay within their core and how to have it come out of who they are, they stop compromising their values. They raise their prices and know that they will attract the people who will be drawn to them. I mean, there's so many laws of the universe, like law of attraction and those things that are true laws of the universe. And so we give away our power, one, through doing things that we think women need to do. I know we were going to talk a little bit about like the beauty industry. Well, I think the
Yeah.
beauty industry for most women, not all, can be a way of giving away their power. So feeling that you are only your looks is giving away your power. Feeling that you are unworthy is a way of giving your power. Feeling that you are not good enough, feel, all of these things, but they're seeped into our culture on so many levels that a woman really has to sit and do the work to heal those. Most
Yeah.
women have suffered some type of abuse, mostly sexual. And I don't know any woman who has not been hurt by the patriarchy. And I don't want to just say men. And when I say patriarchy, I just don't mean men. I think men are just as much victims of patriarchy as women. Patriarchy as a system, as a belief system that we've adopted. And men do benefit a lot in patriarchy, but they're also being destroyed themselves with not being able to have their own emotions, or making sure that a man does one thing all the time. And we're really shifting that. There are more women bread earners. There are a lot
Yeah.
more businesses that run, big corporations, big businesses are sort of falling, and a lot of creative businesses are taking the lead. And innovation and creativity is a feminine energy, whether you're a man or a woman. Birthing, right? Who births? Women birth. Birthing is the creative energy. So every person can tap into that energy, but men sometimes don't know how to as
Right.
much, and women don't know how to. So I'm getting into kind of like bigger topics, and I don't know. You guys, give me a heart. Do you guys know masculine, feminine energy? Have you studied this before? Like, it's such a fascinating topic, and being in your power is the first key to getting the life that you want to live.
Yeah, and it's so interesting talking about beauty because I'm in the space of now being in my 40s, and
Mm-hmm.
things are changing and they're not holding up in the same way. And there is a little bit of this frenzy to kind of to go back, right? I want to look the way that I looked, and I want to
Mm,
weigh what I used to weigh, and there's this like attachment to this former self that I have to let go of because that's not how human nature works. I mean,
right.
aging is inevitable. And in that, I have really come to see this deep attachment and the fear-based attachment to needing to look a certain way, being youthful, being valuable because you are young, because you're attractive. And then what happens to you when you are no longer young? What happens to you when you're no longer attractive? What happens to you when you can no longer have babies? These are all things that women have to confront some way at some point or another. You can hang on to it for as long as you want, and in different ways. But I'm really struggling with, not struggling, I don't say I'm struggling, but it's been really apparent to me in more than ever in my life that I have really attached my self-worth and my value to this sense of like having this sense of looking, needing to look a certain way for
Mm,
society. And what happens if I don't look that way? Am I useless? Can I work anymore? Can I do all these things? And I have been in this period of like really being ticked off. I'm like ticked off. I'm like, who told me that? Who gave me those
yeah.
messages? Where did I learn that I needed to chase this certain ideal? And I see that happening, and I see that happening in a lot of places. And again, I mean, you can call it patriarchy, and it's also, I think, societal construct that it is based in patriarchy and is based in these values that I think don't serve us anymore. What do you think
No.
about that?
Well, and when we say patriarchy, people might think we're blaming men. No, women have bought into this. This is the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Every woman has bought into this.
Yeah.
You've bought into it.
Yeah.
I've bought into it. So it's really only us who are going to get us out of it. Here's one thing I think about a lot. Let's say everything goes really well. You're safe. You're gonna live to be 100. Okay. I had this thought Monday. I'm going to live to be 100. I'm 43. I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
Like, I've got so many years ahead of me. This idea of being valuable, that can't come from anybody else.
Yeah.
And that can't come about looks. So, what we need in the world are women willing to age. And I don't mean like they're willing to just, look haggard or something. They're willing to age. I'm willing to age. I don't have any problem with the number that is attached to me. I don't really identify with it very much.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of weird. It's just like the number on the scale. I don't identify with it very much. The number on the scale has controlled women and put them in a prison. And
Totally.
I decided, gosh, last year I would never weigh myself again. And that might seem really weird or crazy. And, you know, if I go to the doctor, they'll weigh me and whatever. But for my own health, I know what being healthy feels like. So I think what we're missing in the world are the wise women. So there are many archetypes of women. There's like the young princess, there's, you know, the femme fatale, there's like the warrior. What we forget about is the crone. I mean, she doesn't have a great name. I call her the medicine woman, the wise woman. And that is the woman who serves the world through her wisdom. Yes, I may have a few more like laugh lines, but D'Arcy now versus D'Arcy at 20 is
Yeah.
so much more of a developed, rich, beautiful human being. And not that I wasn't then, but there is an evolution that comes from being alive on the planet, at least if you're
Yeah.
doing it right.
Yeah.
And what I want to give my nieces, what I want to give the young women of the world is an example of someone who is wise, who is powerful, who will not play the patriarchy games, who will know her beauty. Who says that wrinkles aren't beautiful? Our society, but guess what? We're switching that. I've seen more than ever before. Our world is switching. Like if we think of in terms of models, I'm a photographer, so I work with a lot of models. You know, Ashley Graham like changed the plus size model
Yeah.
industry forever. And there
Yeah.
are, I can't remember specific names, but we are getting beautiful, beautiful 60-year-old women who are just stepping up and they're showing that, hey, I can still dress amazing. Like Diane Keaton. Oh my gosh, how much do I love Diane Keaton? She is just such a perfect example. And
Meryl
here's the
Streep. I
awesome
mean,
thing. Meryl
yeah. Like,
Streep,
yeah.
like Keanu Reeves, who I have the biggest crush on, he dated Diane Keaton when they were making a movie, and she's like 20 years his senior, you know,
Yeah.
like there is a space where, and some women are doing it, and we just have to tap in and look at those women and not identify with the women who want to stay infantilized. I think that, you
Yeah.
know, there's a big part of the world, and as I travel more, I see it in a lot of other countries, but I also see it in America, that want to keep women like demure and giggling like this and just like, oh, I'm just so sweet and here to serve. And um that's not for me. You
Yeah.
know, that is not my personality. That is not the way I want to raise my nieces. I mean, we have a woman vice president for the first time in the
Yeah.
entire world.
Yeah.
And this is so exciting because look at her. I'm not quite sure how old she is, but man, wise woman archetype,
Yeah.
powerful,
Yeah.
feminine power.
Yeah.
Like that's where we're moving towards. So while we still may deal with a few insecurities because we are human and every human will deal with that, I think that the more we can use our intelligence and our hearts to tap into what really matters, that's what we need, and that's where we're heading. So I'm I'm always talking about this with women, and it's almost like when you have the discussion, they start to see the imprisonment, and once you see that you're in prison, you can figure out how to break out,
Yeah.
right? It's just first recognizing, oh, these thoughts I have about aging and these thoughts I have about looking differently, or
They're
my
not
body
mine.
looking a little differently, you
They're not
know,
mine. Yeah.
I can transform them. And you
Yeah.
can still mourn your past self, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I tell people get a lot of photos taken. I'm a
Yeah.
photographer. I photograph my family every year. I photograph my niece. We have a standing birthday photo session so she can have these beautiful memories of her life, and we can look back and just enjoy the beauty
Totally.
like that we had, and then create new beauty, you
Yeah.
know. If we always all stayed the same, we'd get so bored. This is part of the human experience, is
Yeah,
aging. It's
yeah,
part of the human
absolutely.
experience.
And finding the fine line of aging, you know, I call it aging fiercely, you know, not
Mm-hmm.
gracefully, because that's again, that's in that demure, like I'm
Yeah,
gonna wear my lipstick and I'm gonna go,
totally.
if I wanna go do things with my eyelashes, I'm gonna do them. But there's a different feeling and a motivation behind it, right? It's not to be accepted by others. It's not to please other people. It's like, this makes me powerful. It makes me feel powerful. It makes me feel alive. And I
Yeah.
think finding that place, when it comes to your beauty and your appearance, is like, that's what I want to teach my daughter, my 10-year-old
Yeah.
daughter. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, you want to put, pink streaks in your hair. You want to do that? Sure, great.
Yeah.
It's a way of self expressing yourself and being confident, but you don't need to do it for other people. And that's the difference. And I see that that's how we're born, because that's how she is. And then you start to turn into a preteen and a teen, and then things get really about other people. And then we're given this beautiful
Mm.
opportunity of aging and taking it all back, and doing the work, and we're getting some great feedback here. Molly Miller wrote, "Wise woman, the woman who serves the world through wisdom," which is amazing. And um, Erica Lemke wrote, "An incredible feminine evolution over time. An aging woman is a lioness. Nothing is sexier than a woman who owns her sensuality, her confidence, and her power." So we've got a lot of
Well,
people
I
on.
want to give a shout out to Erica. Erica and I do her brand photos, and we just did a huge, amazing, powerful session. And Erica is, I think you're 50, right, Erica? And like, she wrote a book, Feel Sexy Again, and she's the embodiment of everything we're talking about right now. So if you guys don't follow Erica, like, get her book. Like, at 50, I've never seen a finer woman. Like, she is just teaching me, and she owns it in a way that is powerful. And this is the thing that Erica's doing. We need more women doing this,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
we don't see it, and you
No,
can't become what you don't see. We need the example. So we need to be having conversations like this. So I'm so excited for everybody who's listening to this call, and we need more examples. And Erica's like such a huge freaking rock star,
amazing.
and I love
Everybody
it.
check her out, Erica Lemke. When you're thinking about, you were just saying something, her book. So what are you reading right now, Darcy? Are you reading? How is your writing coming along? Like, how are you exploring new ideas?
The writing is going really well. I have my book mapped out, and I'm just writing chapter summaries right now to finish up the book proposal by the end of the month. And then I'll be shopping it around to agents. And I feel like it's going to be picked up pretty quickly. I feel really confident that it's a book that is not out there in this way. And
Yeah.
what am I reading? I'm reading a bunch of memoirs. So I read one of the most beautiful, every woman needs to read this book. It's called Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Have you read it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's about, it happened in 2015. Chanel Miller was attending a Stanford party. It was all over the news, but she was known as Emily Doe. They didn't use her real name at the time to not like ruin the trial. And she takes you through the whole court system case of her. She was unconscious and raped at a Stanford
Oh,
party.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And you go through the whole thing, and you see how the world is set up to not protect women.
Women.
And you see how, like, you just hear the comments that she got. You see how the judge ruled, which, and I truly believe the two biggest problems in the world are not protecting our children and not protecting women.
Mm-hmm.
Sex trafficking and violence against women are like my top two. I truly think those are the biggest problems in the world. And it's because, the the feminine energy again has been quieted for so long, and it's awakening. But the ones who are going to awaken it are the women. And so, reading books like this, first of all, it's a very compelling, beautiful read. I listen to it because I love hearing her voice and I love hearing her emotion. So I did the audio book, and I would just go walking for hours and tried to finish it up in like a week because I just couldn't stop. But we get to educate ourselves on what's really happening, and we are the most powerful voters in the country. And
Mm-hmm.
when we can vote for our own rights over our own bodies and stop letting men decide what happens to us, uh, that's going to be another wave of freedom for us. And we're not there yet. So I think we're hopefully getting closer, but it's something that I feel very passionate about. So when women tell me, oh, I don't really vote, or I don't really know what's going on in politics, it's like, I try to have good conversations to help them feel how powerful it can be, even if they don't, care about certain things, what happens to their bodies, and sometimes if they don't do it for themselves, women are kind of horrible this way. They might not do it for themselves, but if they have daughters and you're like, what if this situation happened to your daughter? Then it can wake them up just a little
Right.
bit more, because then they are looking outside of themselves. But some women, even if it's just themselves, they won't find enough worth inside to care. And it will come across as just like, oh, I just don't have time. If you really care about yourself and your body, you have the time to do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. D'Arcy, there are a lot of men listening to this and watching this today. How
Mm,
do you frame this to men? Because what I have noticed, and on my Twitter account, I get a lot of backlash actually when I tweet things that might be pro women, or you know
yeah,
perceived as quote unquote feminist, right? Because they, particularly white men, but men can feel like feminism is threatens them, right? Threatens that nobody wants to feel like there's a group of people against them, whether it's women or men or whatever it is, right? So how do we fold men into this and create a new
yeah,
blended system? Because that really is the only true path to transformation. Is we can't do all the work, we can't carry the load of 50% of the population. We have to get men involved here. But men right now are feeling threatened. They're
yeah.
feeling that feminism doesn't include them. How do we talk to men about this? How do we make them more in touch with their feminine, when that they might be surprised, I have a feminine side? What does that mean about, and associates that with maybe sexuality or something like that, which it has nothing to do with. How do we have those conversations and start to fold them into the mix?
Well, okay, so there's a couple different levels of men, right? There's ones who totally understand everything I'm saying and
Yeah.
they're on board, and I recognized one of my boyfriends. I knew he was my boyfriend. I knew I was going to like date this man because when I met him, he was wearing a shirt that said, "This is what a feminist looks like." And I'm
Yeah.
like, hello, I love you.
Yes.
Like, I love you. Let's
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
Um, so there are some men who totally get what we're saying, and they're like, yes, I do see the oppression of women. And it's important in every problem. Like when you even talk about racism, white people can't get so entrenched in their own guilt that they don't take action and they just sit around feeling bad, right? That's not helpful for anything. So there are some who get what I'm saying. There are many men who are married to women, and if that woman could have the conversation with them and
Hmm.
start a dialogue, and that woman can talk about what she means and what this means. What I know about men, the masculine energy wants to protect and defend. And when they understand what they're protecting and what they're defending, that they're not actually, you know, that they're not, see, they're seeing it as a loss. And we do have to acknowledge that there will be a loss. White
Hmm.
men, we
Yeah.
have to acknowledge that they will lose
Yeah.
something. They
Yes.
are losing their position.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation. And when I acknowledge, yes, you are going to lose something, let's deal with how that feels. And men don't know how to deal with the feeling of it, because that's their feminine side, is to feel. So they know they're having a loss. So then they just turn to anger. And anger might be the first feeling. So those men who are like just being so reactionary, they see what's coming, either subconsciously or consciously, and their first emotion is anger. So there might be a lot of anger emotions which are happening. It doesn't mean we need to stop. And some women, when they get an angry message from a man, I just got one the other day and I just posted it to my stories and said, poor Eddie. His name was Eddie, and he
Yeah.
just hated everything I was saying. I was like, Eddie, you're losing something. Like, I acknowledge your loss, but it doesn't mean, and this is the thing, women can be very sensitive. So if they get met with anger, they get afraid and they want to stop speaking.
Right.
And so that's when, for every Eddie out there, D'Arcy has invited into her life many men who protect me, who stand by me, who honor me, who have these discussions with me, who, even if they don't fully understand, they are seeking to understand, who are dealing right now with the fact that especially white men, their role in the world is shifting.
Mm-hmm.
So acknowledging the loss is huge, allowing them to feel their emotions. Most of men, and this is the thing about America, men mostly just know how to feel anger. They don't know how to feel sadness because we don't let men cry.
Yeah.
So it's like, and this is why they need men need women, women need men. And I'm speaking men and women, but it's every person. We all have this inner space within us, and we get to really look at how we process that. So acknowledge that it's a loss, acknowledge that their first feeling is going to
Mm-hmm.
be anger. Surround yourself with men willing to listen. Have these conversations with your husbands, with your sons. Here's the thing that women forget: we birth all the men and all the women. We give birth to them.
Mm-hmm.
We raise them. So raise your men, raise your
Totally.
boys to, like, I don't think I'm going to save the 80-year-old racist grandpa. I don't think I'm going to get it. But the 12-year-old boy just coming of age in this world, yeah, let him have these conversations. Talk to him about protecting and defending. Talk to him about equality of women. Talk to him about honoring the birth energy of the planet, because that needs to be honored, and it's not right now.
Yeah, that's so beautiful and so powerful, and something that, when I was pregnant, I had 3 kids. I, had thought, oh, I want, more girls and boys and all of this stuff. And Erica Lemke saying, changing the paradigm in my household with my 16-year-old son. And that,
Yeah.
yes,
Sorry, I don't have my
that's
glasses on, so I'm getting
that
close to
is
read.
that is what I was going to say, is that, a girlfriend told me having a son is so powerful, for women, because we can change the world by how we
Yeah.
raise them. And so
Yeah.
we might associate ourselves more with girls, but we have the power to change the world with our boys. And you're so right. And I
Mm-hmm.
think about that very conscientiously, that I need to teach my boys right from wrong, and lifting the potty seat, and being conscious
Yeah. Yep.
about that. And
Exactly.
then valuing women. And you're right, it starts, women are part of it, men are part of it, and women are also are the leaders in this space. And as we're wrapping up time here, I just want to open up to anyone. If anyone has any questions for D'Arcy, feel free to chime in. But what are your,
Yeah.
like,
Thanks, everybody.
it's been great. And what are your hopes for 2021, D'Arcy? I mean, what do you want from this year? What does life have in store for you? I know that you're working on a lot of, you were in the beginning talking about home renovation. I know you're working on some major renovation projects. I saw today that you're launching a mastermind pretty soon. Like, what's coming up,
Yeah.
and where are you headed?
Um, it's a good question. I think what 2020 taught me was to let things unfold. So one thing that I'm really feeling strongly about is understanding um, that there needs to be a shift in how we have communication in the world. And the communication starts with me, it starts with my own team, it starts with the women I'm teaching, and it starts with everybody that I see as different than me, separate than me. I have I've worked with a certain shaman on different ceremonies over my life, and he always says everybody holds a piece of the truth. So, I look at like a major Trump supporter, and he'll say, that person holds a piece of the truth, and you hold a piece of the truth. And not one person has all the truth. In
Yeah.
fact, every person holds a piece of it. And as we can talk to each person, we can get a greater understanding of the truth and of um, the future and of where we need to go. So I'm hoping to have deeper conversations. I'm hoping to not be so reactionary where I cut the conversation short with someone who doesn't agree with me. I'm hoping to seek to um, have be a mouthpiece for some better logic that isn't so divided. I don't think America can keep having these Republican and Democrats. And while I know what I believe, I'm starting to get tired of identifying myself as a political party because I think they're very, very sick.
Yeah.
And what I think about America is it's very, very sick. It
Hmm.
rapes everything, it pillages everything, it destroys everything, it consumes everything, and that cannot continue. So that's what I'm saying, why I don't really believe in the whole get up, work, 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 work. It's just not sustainable for our planet. And I want to find a way to sustain the planet, to sustain my own health, to sustain life around me by growing things and taking the time to not just be connected to this little box that we all hold in our hands and plan our lives around. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm putting out into 2021.
That is beautiful. I love that. That's so inspiring, and that's something that, it's not just a goal for 2021, but it's a goal for life, It's like
Yeah,
that is a well-lived life. If we can do it, and it's just baby steps, right? That's
yeah,
what we all have to remember is you didn't get to where you are today. I didn't get to where I am today, and we have so much more growth, and we're going to be in totally different places in 5 years
yeah,
from year from now,
yeah.
and being self-compassionate is a really important part of that.
Yes, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. This is a
Darcy,
great
thank you so much.
conversation.
You so just continued great things for 2021. I look forward to seeing what wonderful things that you're doing. You can connect with Darcy on her Instagram and then join her mastermind, which is, when is it going to start?
It starts the first week of February.
Okay, great. So I know that you're
Yeah,
taking applications for that, and continue to be well and put your light into the world. And I look forward to reconnecting with you again soon.
yeah. Thank you so much. You too.
All
I'll
right,
talk to
take
you.